Hey Cupcakes, Lisa here with another installment in my Learn to Speak Tarot series, which may or may not fully materialize. We'll see, the jury's out. But you know, it's promising that I've made a couple of videos over the past couple of days. So I put out a video yesterday called 3 Must-Have Decks. And as folks have already noted, I didn't include an example of a Crowley-Harris, or what's called the Thoth, or I pronounce it Thoth, tarot deck, and I didn't include a Marseille style deck. And so, rightly so, folks were saying, hey, but there are 3 systems of tarot. You're really only representing one system, the Rider-Waite-Smith system. That was deliberate because, and this is one of the 4 foundations of learning to speak tarot. So, spoiler alert, there will be a video, maybe even later today, the 4 foundations of how to speak tarot. There's only one system of tarot, only one. Now there are different lineages, and by lineage I mean, you know, key figures who've come in as interpreters of the tarot and have produced decks that interpret this one system of tarot, you know, and their interpretations have been more or less influential. So Arthur Edward Waite, Pamela Coleman Smith, interpreter of the one system of tarot, extraordinarily influential, right? So the vast majority of decks that have been produced in the last 100 years have come out of the insights of Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith. Aleister Crowley, another former member of the Golden Dawn. Aleister Crowley, his collaboration with Lady Frida Harris, the Crowley-Harris Tarot, tremendously influential. It's an interpretation of the one system of tarot. And it's important to think about these different figures as interpreters of the deck, because it's important to recognize that literally every tarot deck that emerges, even a deck like the Minchiate, which is not a true tarot, or a deck like the Prager Tarot, which only has 52, no, how many cards in the Prager? I can't remember. I'll have to flip it in. It only has ace through 4 and then the courts. So it's missing 6 out of each of the suits. Even decks like that, which are kind of modifications, they are interpretations of the one true tarot. Now, it's not that it's the one true tarot. It's that there's one system that evolves and is interpreted over time by different individuals and artists. This is a really important point because it's a point that liberates us from imagining that there are these really separate esoteric, or maybe not esoteric, systems of knowledge that we need to master in order to learn this and to learn that and to learn that. Instead, we should just think about the deck in front of us and what its intention is and how it ties into all of the other tarot decks that we know or that we play with. I hope that that insight hits you as it hits me, as liberating, as permission to explore any given tarot deck on its own merits and in relationship to all the other tarot decks that you know and that you or that you are getting to know. That said, it's really important to learn the really key figures in tarot. The starting point has to be these cards that are in the Rider-Waite-Smith system. That's why my 3 must-have decks are all within the Rider-Waite system, because it's there that the idea of tarot as a structured, unified whole really takes root, really takes shape, and really acquires the force, the full power of image, number, and arrangement, the 3 principles of a tarot deck. But then we will be doing ourselves no favor if we don't have in our collection an example of a Crowley-Harris deck and an example of a Marseille-style deck. So the 2 decks I recommend, and I'll say more about this in later videos, is I recommend just getting yourself a copy of Crowley-Harris's deck. I have several versions from several different moments in its publishing history. So this is the 1980s Greenie style deck. It came in a white box. You can get these on eBay if you are lucky and diligent, you can, spend less than $50 on one, but they can be very spendy. What's nice about this is the back is borderless, and the edges are green, the colors and images are relatively sharp and bright. But there are tons. I mean, US Games still publishes the Crowley Harris deck. You can get it in different sizes, different formats. You can trim it. There's lots and lots out there. The imagery, Frida Harris's imagery, is insanely powerful. It is a PIP-style deck, which is why I recommended as my third must-have deck, Kim Krantz's Wild Unknown, a deck that brings the Rider-Waite-Smith system out of human figuration into the natural world, and that starts to introduce the reader to the world of interpreting these abstract, minimally illustrated pips. So get yourself a Crowley Harris deck. We will talk about it, we will explore it, we will play with it. We will not be treating it as a separate tarot system, because there is one tarot. And you do need a Marseille style deck. I recommend getting the CBD tarot, Yoav Ben Dov's tarot, which was originally self-published. He passed away. US Games acquired it and now have issued it. It's inexpensive. It's easy to come by. It's really well produced. His faces, as some have noticed, are a little bit made a little bit more gentle than in a really traditional reproduction, but it's relatively faithful. He has a book called The Open Reading, which is a good book, a helpful book. So he wrote about his own deck, which is always nice. There are many Tarot de Marseille out there. Everyone should own one that is relatively neutral. The CBD is a good choice. If the coloration and the sort of starkness of the white background really turns you off, the deck I might recommend instead, which is also easy to come by, I have a vintage copy, but it's still in print, is the Fournier Tarot de Marseille, which has this sort of more shaded flesh tones, more nuanced sort of, what do I want to call that? I guess shading. So it's not so stark and woodblocky, and then it has these really pretty colors. The suits are color coded. The cardstock is nice. The cards are sort of slightly smaller than US Game tarot card size, which makes them nice for little hands. So those would be my two recommendations. Keeping in mind that there is only one system of tarot. The tarot emerges from the, the synthesis of East and West. When the Mamluk dynasty of Egypt comes into the Iberian Peninsula in the late Middle Ages and brings these playing cards, what are known as the Mamluk playing cards, that are really the forerunners of our modern deck, our 52 card deck, 3 court figures, although they're all male in the Mamluk, and then the 4 suits that correspond to the tarot suits of batons, cups, swords, and coins. When the Mamluk tarot deck, playing card deck, comes into Europe, into the Iberian Peninsula, and meets in Italy a kind of Italian humanist fascination with allegory, you get the combination of the major, what we now call the major arcana, with the minor arcana. So the one system of tarot comes from this meeting of East and West, comes from this combination of what we now see as just a regular playing card deck with this kind of allegorical overlay of 22 cards. They come together. They come together. The heart of tarot starts to beat. And then over the centuries, that one deck of 78 cards gets interpreted and redrawn and reconfigured and reimagined and cut down and beefed up for different audiences, different players, and then ultimately acquires sort of this overlay, or this, maybe overlay makes it sound like something is just placed on top, but this integration of correspondences with esoteric meaning, and you get the modern tarot. Okay, all for now.